Hi there guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Rommel Art and this is Rommel, a professional teacher and a freelance graphic artist. And today I decided to give a short introduction to philosophy. So first, what is philosophy and what are the two schools of philosophy? And basically, what are the epochs or eras of philosophy? Now, a lot of my students are scared about philosophy because in the universities, a lot of philosophy teachers look strict, and when you look at in YouTube, you can notice that most people who talk about philosophy, they look fancy, they look sophisticated. Philosophy is just simple. It's also very interesting, and philosophy can come from different places, different races, and from different walks of life. So anyway, I'll give you a short introduction to philosophy, and I'll try my best to make it simple so you could understand and you could learn from me. So philosophy is, by formal definition, it is the study of systems and theories, and basically the theories that we have even in science and other discipline, they started with philosophy, because in the beginning, before there was what we so call specialization, most people in the past tried to study everything. So and then all those things that they study, they compile it in together and they call it philosophy. So we see that a lot of philosophers in the old times, they were also studying a lot of things. So before, there was no clear distinction between different disciplines or theories or systems. The informal definition of philosophy, or the general understanding of philosophy, is that philosophy is the study of everything. So every time you question or you ask basic questions, for example, why is it that the sun is shining every day, or why is it that the sun doesn't cool down, or why is it that the sky is blue, why is it that the color of my eyes is brown? So these questions are basically simple, and yet if you try to ask, if you question, that's already philosophy. You're philosophizing, you're asking. Philosophy is virtually basically the study of everything. So but when I recall in my college days, I told my professor that simple things are not really part of philosophy, because actually, if you're a philosopher, you really have to think with sophisticated stuff. He told me that the simplest things are actually the most sophisticated ones. Like, for example, about our dreams. All right, so some people say that they take for granted our dreams, but in reality, no one can really explain clearly why we dream, and no one can control dreams. So a lot of studies have been done in the field of science and in various fields, but the answer to dreams eludes a lot of thinkers and philosophers. So there are a lot of simple things, daily things that we take for granted, and we think we know a lot, but we actually don't know. So that is why in philosophy, there is no silly question, there is no stupid question. So if you question everything and you ask anything, and you want to explore in anything, be my guest. So that is philosophy. So philosophy is the study of virtually everything. Because of specialization, philosophy has become a little bit specialized. So when you're still in college, basically you study a lot of philosophical subjects. So you study metaphysics, epistemology, and a lot of subjects out there that are considered to be part of philosophy. But when you graduate from when you pass the philosophical studies, we also have specialization. So for example, some philosophy students focus on mathematics. So just like Bertrand Russell, Wittgenstein, so they were focused on mathematics and logic. Other philosophers are focused on religion. So some philosophers, when they graduate college, they focus on their research and their study on religious stuff. So they don't deal with math, they don't deal with engineering, they only deal with investigating what God is and who God is. So that's the focus of their study. So other philosophers also focus on the study of the human self, or in psychology. So some philosophers focus on psychology, focus on how the human mind process, so the process of the human thinking. And so when you graduate, you cannot really say that a philosopher is the master of the universe or the all-knowing person. No, actually, when you finish philosophy, you still have to focus on what is really your specialization. Now, if you ask me what's my specialization, I specialize on communication and I specialize on negotiation. So that's what I love to study in philosophy. So I try to understand how people communicate one another, and I study philosophers that deal with this. So there are two schools of philosophy. One is the what we call the analytic, and the other one is the continental. So the analytic are the philosophers who deal with mathematics, engineering, logic. So they deal with the things that are focused on the mind and focused on the processes of the mind. So they also philosophers are focused on the meanings of the words, and how we correlate meaning together, how we find consistency and the correlation in words, in the connection of words and phrases and sentences. So these are the kinds of philosophers. So the analytic philosophers are the ones who deal with inferences, and inferences related to numerical functions and linguistic meaning or linguistic value. So for the continental, they're the philosophers who are dealing with the metaphysical, or the beyond the norm, beyond the realm of reality. So these are the philosophers who deal about God, about religion, so the things that we cannot really actually see. So there is no direct tangible evidence in the world. So these are, for example, the philosophers who study about human feelings, feelings. So human feeling. So these are the philosophers who study with the spiritual things, or the things that is beyond the realm of the physical realm. So there are a lot of philosophers like that. Also the existentialists. So they focus on the things that we cannot actually you know it's not really related to numerical values, so they don't really deal with that. So like the economics. So the four epochs of philosophy are actually this is the thing that you have to learn if you want to study philosophy. So philosophy is divided into four epochs or eras. So first we have the ancient philosophy, second we have the medieval, and third we have the modern, and fourth we have the contemporary. Now with the ancient period, the philosophers were just like little kids. They were like they had this child curiosity. So it's the beginning of the investigation of philosopher on how the world works and what really the world is. So philosophers were looking for sort of the origin of things. So this is the beginning of the study of the monads. So the study also of the earth stuff. So philosophers were trying to understand what's the basic composite, or what's the basic stuff that makes out the universe. So they were just trying to understand the universe. So what's the process of the universe? So they were like children. They were always asking the so-called silly questions, the basic questions about nature. Now after that, the philosophy of the ancient philosophy, or the classical antiquity, is divided into two. So philosophers were asking about the world and its processes, and second, the philosophers who moved to a different direction. So instead of focusing on the cosmos, they were now asking what the human person is. So they were asking about their feelings. They were also asking questions about their government, about the society. So there's a movement in the ancient period. from the study of the material things of the cosmos to the study of the human person and human society and culture. So in the classical antiquity, or in the ancient time, the famous philosophers are the Milesians, and then we also have Pythagoras, we also have Anaximenes, we also have in the second part of the classical antiquity, we have Socrates, we have Plato, we have Aristotle, the triumvirate of the classical antiquity. After that, we move on to the medieval. In the medieval era, the philosophers were mostly converted to Christianity, and at this time, religion is growing. Not only in Europe and in the Western world, but also in the Eastern world. So philosophy is now getting hold of philosophers and censure the spread of ideas. So at this time, philosophers were not only dealing with the cosmos and about themselves, they were also asking questions about who God is, where God is. Now, to the medieval era, the philosophers were now converted. Most philosophers were converted to Christianity, and in some other parts of the world, religion is becoming a dominant power. So before, religion was just a thing that is involved with spirituality, but gradually religion has gained authority and power on the people. So it's not just easy to simply question things or to philosophize about anything in the world. Religion is gaining power and momentum and controlling or censuring many philosophers, many thinkers. So in the medieval era, the powerful, the big names are Saint Thomas of Aquinas, the Church Father, Saint Augustine. We also have Saint Anselm, and we also have Boetius. And so there are a lot of in the medieval era, they were focused on studying God and who God is. So still they were studying about the cosmos, about man, but God came into the picture. So they had to study theology. They had to speculate about God, who God is, where God is, and is God really real? And philosophers were now thinking about heaven and hell. So in the medieval era, philosophers were focused on also with they include in their portfolio the study of God. But the thing with the medieval era is that it was also a risky period for philosophers, because philosophers cannot simply question or share their ideas, because if by any chance your philosophy runs against the religious doctrine or beliefs, then that would not be good for you. So you could get punished, you could get imprisoned. So philosophers in the medieval era were a little bit, we may say, cautious. Moving forward, we now proceed to the modern age. So in the modern age, the philosophers are now a little bit freer, but before they got the sort of philosophical freedom to question everything and to criticize everything, or to be to open to rationalization, a lot of philosophers endured the struggle to be liberated from the control of the church, or from the censure of the church. So we called it the Age of Enlightenment, because from the Dark Ages, when the time in the medieval era, in the Dark Ages, philosophers were not allowed to speculate on things, or were not allowed to criticize everything. But in the modern age, this is the Renaissance age, wherein it's an age where it invites people to think critically, to challenge the system, to question the system, and to challenge the legitimacy of authority that people impose on others. So the modern age is the age of liberal thinking. So it's the beginning of free thinking, and a lot of philosophers like Jacques Rousseau, one of whom, also Jean Locke, So they were the philosophers who rose in the time of Renaissance and challenged the system. So we see that these philosophers were really questioning they had critical questions in politics, also in society. We also have the famous Karl Marx and other political philosophers, social philosophers, who offered ideas about liberation, about freedom. Now, the challenge with modern philosophy is that a lot of philosophers and thinkers were thinking about progress, and now when philosophy progressed also with science, it led to the what we so called too secularized relationship, transactional relationship, that philosophy gradually, or the sciences gradually, destroyed societies and cultures. So, okay, magkupas daddy, tiwason daddy. So, the as a result, the result. I love you, baby. So it spread the ideologies that affect nations and affect countries, leading to bloodshed and wars. So the modern age gradually lose its momentum in the after the World War II, when philosophers were thinking of bringing back cultures and religion into the spotlight. So instead of being too focused with science, being too focused with ideologies, with putting too much emphasis on the human person, in the contemporary era, or in the contemporary philosophy, it's now the inclusion of various philosophies and the integration of various philosophical ideas. So it is the sort of unity in plurality. So the beauty with the contemporary era is that philosophers from different nations, from different um, backgrounds, could participate in philosophical debates. So we could see in Cambridge, in other universities, in Harvard, that other scholars and thinkers are given the opportunity to share their ideas and share their culture and belief in forums. So that's the beauty of the contemporary era, is that we philosophers and thinkers try to synthesize or unify various ideas from various nations and various walks of life. So that's it. So that's a short introduction to philosophy. So first I taught you what is philosophy, and basic introduction to schools of philosophy, 4 eras of philosophy. So if you have question, if you have question, you can just post a comment. If you have question in philosophy, you can ask me any question, and if there's something that you want to clarify, or there's something that you want to correct with the things I said, you can just always post a comment below. So feel free to react, feel free to comment.